In this video, we're going to learn about the scale of arousal, arousal fluid versus discharge, and how to become your own authority around your sexual health and wellness. Let's dive in. What is the scale of arousal? Let's take a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being I'm not aroused at all, and 10 being I have orgasmed, right? So here's our scale. And there's varying levels of arousal within this scale. So level 1, again, not aroused, but a level 3 might be I'm feeling a little turned on, still not fully aroused and erect, ready to have penetration or sex or anything of that sort yet. A 4 or 5 would be, okay, I'm ready to start engaging in sexual activity. And a 6 and a 7 would be you're pretty aroused, starting to get very into whatever experience you're having, whether that's with yourself or a partner. And 8 and 9 is you are about to orgasm. You are experiencing deep states of pleasure, intimacy, connection, presence, and you are on the verge of orgasming. So there's our scale, okay? Now, the reason I'm bringing this scale in to the conversation is because I always encourage all of my clients to explore their genitalia in all states of arousal. So I want you to watch this masterclass, get all of the information around each individual part, where it's located, what it does, and then I would love for you to take a mirror, sit in front of a mirror, or if you don't have female anatomy, to explore your partner's anatomy if you are with a woman. Or again, even if you're non-binary, if you have the female reproductive anatomy, explore. Explore it in all stages. So what you're gonna find is when you explore it in a non-state of arousal, so level 1, it's not going to feel super great. It's going to probably feel a little bit more like you're at the gynecologist, just poking and prodding around, but you're going to find each part and you're going to notice how it feels when you're not aroused. And then you're going to do it again at a level 3 or 4, and you'll notice how things begin to swell and they plump up a little bit and they start to activate. Again, at a level 5 and 6, you'll notice things are really plump and juicy and they feel a lot better to be touched. And then again, at a level 7, 8, 9, everything is fully engaged. Almost any kind of touch feels pleasurable and it's activated and engaged and aroused. This is so important because it takes on average 20 minutes for a woman to become fully erect or aroused. How often do we rush into sex? How often do we have quick sex that's straight to the point and focused solely on orgasm versus slowing things down and creating real connection and real pleasure? And again, this is just with yourself. I want you to think about when you masturbate. Are you just trying to rush to the finish line? Are you just grabbing a vibrator really quickly and rubbing one out? Or are you taking this time to really be with yourself and to explore your pleasure and some of your internal anatomy as well? So as we go through, explore the scale of arousal. And I invite you to really slow down, start to take time to give yourself the opportunity to become fully aroused, to become at a level 5, 6, or 7 before any kind of penetration. Now, this brings up the topic of arousal fluid versus discharge. They're not the same thing. And for women, especially us in our bleeding years, we have shifting hormones throughout the entire month. We go through different phases of our cycle, and in each phase, we have a different type of discharge. So in our bleeding, we're obviously in our menstruation, we are releasing and shedding the uterine lining, and that's coming out. That is kind of the beginning of the cycle. When we track our period, it's typically tracked as the first day of your bleed is day 1 of your cycle, and then we track from there. Once we are done bleeding, we go into our follicular phase. And in this follicular phase is when estrogen rises. And in the rising of estrogen, we start to get a little bit more discharge. Now, the discharge is going to look a little bit different in this phase versus your ovulatory phase. It's going to look a little bit more like thin and I would say like a kind of a milky consistency. As you move into ovulation, it's going to be a little bit more sticky, where you'll notice that it's just a little bit more together, right? As you move through ovulation and into your luteal phase, that's when things start to dry up a little bit. You'll be a little bit more in a dry phase. Progesterone starts to come in, and then we menstruate again. So just a quick introduction into how our discharge operates. Now, if we are basing arousal off of discharge, you're doing a great disservice to yourself, your body, and what is a full yes for you. If you are not in a state of arousal, I really encourage you to say no to engaging in penetration. Not to say no to sex or pleasure or any of that, but to really slow down and take time getting yourself to that state of arousal. There are many times where I'm sure you may have been with a partner and they're like, "Oh, you're so wet." And you're like, "Well, I mean, yes, it's wet down there, but that's your discharge. That's not arousal fluid. That's not, taking that time to really warm yourself up and to become fully aroused." And really investigating and exploring your anatomy through that scale of arousal is going to give you that gauge and that understanding of, oh, this is what arousal feels like, not only on a more like body feeling level, but also I'm literally touching my anatomy and I can feel what arousal feels like. And when you are in that state of arousal, your arousal fluid, the glands that secrete the arousal fluid, activate. And then arousal fluid starts to come in, creating more lubrication for penetration. So I really want you to explore both of these. 1, the scale of arousal, check it out. 2, make sure that you are giving yourself at least 20 minutes to just become fully erect, engaged in any kind of play, either with yourself or with partners. And start to notice the difference between when you have the arousal fluid start to kick in versus your monthly discharge that cycles throughout the month. This also helps us to let go of shame around, "Oh, I'm not wet." You might just be in your luteal or premenstrual phase. And like all women, we are in a drier state because we're going into our menstruation. So there's no shame that we need to hold on to around this. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to be fixed. You're just a woman going through your cycle. And if you give yourself that time, that 20-minute period to really engage your senses, to be present with yourself and with a partner, to make eye contact, to breathe together, to explore each other's bodies without going directly for genital touch right away, it really helps to activate and engage all of these other areas of your body that contribute to your overall satisfaction and arousal and connection. And then from that point, when we engage in penetrative sex, it is so much more pleasurable. And I'm going to get into some of the anatomical reasons why it becomes more pleasurable in the next couple of modules. So get ready for that, but just know that you deserve to take a little bit of time with yourself. And there's no rush. And you deserve it. And finally, when we start to explore all of these parts of ourselves and understand what arousal looks like for us, what discharge is, and where we really need more time, love, and attention through this exploration, we can then communicate that so much better to our partners. You become such a good lover when you are a good lover to yourself. Like I just said, are you rushing to the finish line? Even when it's solo play, If that's the case, how often in your partnered play are you rushing to the finish line? Are you stuck in your head? Are you just trying to fantasize about something just to get there? Right? And again, no shame around this. We build neural pathways. We build pathways to pleasure. And when we build a pathway, our brain likes to use that pathway again and again and again because we know, hey, we can get from A to B, and this is how we do it. And it's perfect. We're going to keep that pathway to pleasure. And what I'm inviting in this conversation is to start to build some new pathways and start to explore some new ways of engaging with our body and with the pleasure that's available to us so that you can expand your pleasure potential. With this information, let's dive into anatomy. Let's get down and dirty right into it so that you can start to integrate this information, explore it, find all of these parts within yourself or with your partner, and really expand what is possible and available here to you through the understanding of your body. See you in the next video.